This is a very special My 11 Circle fantasy pick on ESPNcricinfo. I'm Ronak Kapoor. Joining me shortly, Sanjay Manjrekar and Tom Moody as we look back at some of the top fantasy returns of IPL 2020. Right, gentlemen, we know the drill. You know the drill by now, how our viewers and our users have gone about making their fantasy team right throughout the tournament. So many points to be won. But we're going to look back at our team of the tournament. Now, this is not something that we can pick in an average match day, but we're going to look back at it and try and see what lessons has this year's tournament taught us about how to play fantasy. And I'm going to go to some of the top point getters, right? Let's go to the wicket keepers first. We're going to go with Quinton de Kock and KL Rahul, who form a large part of our team of the tournament. Two players that have been prolific for their sides. De Kock with in excess of 450 runs for the Mumbai Indians this season, striking at nearly 140. He's also had enough 50-plus scores and effected 16 catches and 4 stumpings as keeper. Rahul, on the other hand, he's been the most prolific run getter almost throughout the season, and he also has plenty of dismissals with the gloves as well. Bats at the top of the order. Sanjay, Tom, as we just look back at some of these players, wicket keepers, again, it suggests keepers that bat at the top of the order always have a chance to give you high returns. Sanjay?
Yeah, so essentially, I think the gloves don't mean much, the wicket-keeping gloves, because it's not about how brilliantly you keep in T20 cricket. Otherwise, Saha would be the first choice for every franchise. So it's clearly about your batting ability, and batting at the top also allows you to get runs. I don't know how much strike rate has a bearing on points, because clearly on strike rate, Quinton de Kock is ahead of Rahul. But when you look at aggregate runs, Rahul far ahead.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that Sanjay makes, Tom. Sometimes you think, what a good wicketkeeper is going to get me stumpings and catches. You have to look at the opposition bowling. But if you have to just level all that out, keepers that open the batting are just premium in fantasy.
Oh, look, absolutely. You get your... And the thing is that there's so many pure batsmen that are more than capable keepers. And both Quinton de Kock and KL Rahul are two very good examples of that. The other thing to consider is who is the wicketkeeper batsman? Who are they receiving their catches off? So who are they keeping to? Have they got a team that have got some very good spinners that produce opportunities for stumping chances? Do they have a very good fast bowling attack where you get those edges behind? All those things count for a lot of points.
All right, let's go to our specialist batsman, and you wouldn't discard Rahul and de Kock in a specialist batsman conversation, but just tells you that these are guys, like Tom said, would just give you some extra points with the gloves. They are top quality batsmen. So too are some of our best returning batsmen of this year's IPL. That's Shikhar Dhawan with excess of 600 runs. It's been Shikhar Dhawan's transformative season as a T20 batsman. You think David Warner's there? He always is there, isn't he? 500 plus runs in IPLs year after year for the Sunrisers captain. And DEVDUTT PADIKKAL, who we'll, I'm sure, hear a lot more of in time to come, has ended in the top 10 run getters of the tournament. He scored 473 runs, the most for RCB this season, striking at 124. And of course, those 50s that he kept churning out one after the other, 5 50s, those carry some points with you as well. 8 catches, so good fielder to Padikkal. So Dhawan, Warner and Padikkal, 3 left-handers in our top returning batsmen, along with Rahul, of course. Tom, does that give you an indication again that top order batsmen are just premium? Forget everyone else.
Yeah, well, what it tells you is that, they're facing, either the first ball or certainly, balls in the first over where they have the opportunity to face 60 plus balls. And if you're good enough, which clearly all those 3 are good enough, you're going to have the opportunity to score plenty of runs. So to me, it's it's a no-brainer that, your top order players are always going to have an opportunity to get loads and loads of points. And, Shikhar Dhawan, in my view, having, arguably his best season and the best season out of the 3 that were mentioned there.
In particular, Sanjay, this year's IPL has seen opening batsmen play a large role. Bowlers have come into it. You, in a way, come to think of it, whether we are critical in our live coverage shows about strike rates and whatnot, batsmen that want to consume more balls invariably will get you runs, which invariably will get you fantasy points. It's one way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah, purely from gaining fantasy points. When you look at the overall picture about who's the batsman who actually gets the team to win, it's a completely different ball game there. So while the rules of fantasy leagues are the same, I think it's a no-brainer that a person who gets a lot of runs are the ones that you've got to back. So all 3, openers, you'll never find a number 4 or 5 in that particular list.
What kind of all-rounders have given us the best returns? Now, pre-season, before this tournament, if you would have said the top two all-rounders with points in fantasy would be Marcus Stoinis and Rahul Tewatia, and not an Andre Russell or anybody else that you would usually expect to be on this list, I wonder how many people would have taken your argument. But those are the returns. Marcus Stoinis has had an outstanding season. He's scored runs, he's taken wickets, he's taken catches, and he's had a massive impact for the Delhi Capitals. Rahul Tewatia is there as well. The story of the season, you'd think. And it wasn't just a one-shot wonder or a one-game wonder in Tewatia against Punjab. He did it against Rashid Khan and the Sunrisers. He also kept bowling his 4 overs more regularly. Tells you something though, Tom, about the type of all-rounder you could squeeze into your fantasy team. We keep saying it and you keep saying it. Such a big thing, confidence and form. And 2 players that have carried form through the tournament have also returned some pretty good results in fantasy.
Yeah, look, having a form all-rounder solves a lot of problems for any franchise team. It gives you the flexibility to, in more often than not, play 6 bowlers. They're generally the 6th bowler in that combination. And really the key for me when it comes to fantasy and picking an all-rounder is picking an all-rounder that's going to get plenty of balls to face. That's why the Tewatia story is a very unique one, because he didn't really get too many opportunities up the order, where Stoinis has had those opportunities. Both have had standout performances, standout seasons, and obviously collected a lot of points due to that consistency with bat and ball.
Another interesting thing is, Sanjay, we've often talked about it on our coverage shows as well, that all-rounders that are in form tend to get a lot more confidence with their captains. Rahul Tewatia bowls 4 overs more than the frontline leg spinner Shreyas Gopal. Stoinis gets to bat high up the order. It's interesting for fantasy users to use guys in form.
And, the analyst in me, the cricketer in me, I'm very happy that these 2 names have emerged, because when you look at Marcus Stoinis and Rahul Tewatia, there's one commonality between the 2, is that they can actually walk into the side on one discipline. If Stoinis is unable to bowl, the kind of form that he was in, they'll play him as a batsman. Tewatia has flown under the radar with his bowling. He's actually outbowled Shreyas Gopal this season. So he can actually walk in. Rajasthan Royals will pick him even if he's unable to bat. Now, these are the kind of all-rounder that I like, who can walk into the team purely on one discipline. And somewhere, I think Fantasy League is rewarding these kind of players, because if not for his bowling, Tewatia would not have been along with Stoinis, because Stoinis is more the batting all-rounder, Tewatia the bowling all-rounder.
Yeah, fair point. Let's go to the bowlers then and see what sort of bowlers have given us maximum returns this season. And you can predict this list. Jofra Archer's there, KAGISO Rabada's there, Jasprit Bumrah's there, and there's Rashid Khan. They've all got the wickets. Jofra Archer's tonked a few with bat as well. Standout bowler for the Rajasthan Royals. Rashid Khan has been Rashid Khan. That economy has been unbelievable. 5.37, the best all season. He's gone wicketless just 4 games out of 16 for the Sunrisers. And we look at KAGISO Rabada, he of course held the purple cap for a large part of the tournament. Jasprit Bumrah there as well. Sanjay, we thought that this IPL is a reminder of the importance of quality fast bowling. And I guess it's no surprise that Rashid Khan sneaks into that list too.
Yes, but again, I think there is a lesson learned here for players who play this league. That's pick out a super bowler, a great IPL bowler, and see amongst them who's the better batsman. And that's where I think Jofra Archer is getting some extra points for people who have picked him, because there's nothing that you get with Bumrah with the bat, hardly anything with Rashid Khan as well. And Rabada also, bats far down the order. So Jofra Archer on occasions has actually been promoted up the order to expedite the run rate. So all superb, top-class bowlers, but Jofra Archer bats a bit.
Tom, the other thing is you look at batsmen and all-rounders and you think maybe there are a few surprises. Somehow with bowlers, you don't try and gamble with bowlers. You take your short match winners, Archer, Bumrah, Rabada, Rashid Khan.
All these 4 are world-class, aren't they? They clearly stand out, not only in T20 cricket, but across all formats. No surprise to see those names sort of rise to the surface, when it comes to performance and getting points. And the other thing to consider is that outside of Rashid Khan, the other 3 all bowl at key periods where wickets are generally taken, and that is in the power play overs and at the death. So they're always in that position to be taking wickets, and they've done it exceptionally well in their own very different ways, and been incredibly effective for their franchises.
Just looking at that full team then for this year's tournament, and our recommended 11 or our ideal fantasy 11 would have been Quinton de Kock, KL Rahul, Shikhar Dhawan, David Warner, and DEVDUTT Padikkal. So stack your teams with opening batsmen. It doesn't matter in a fantasy team. They're going to give you the maximum returns. There's Marcus Stoinis and Rahul Tewatia as all-rounders, Jofra Archer, Rabada, Bumrah, and Rashid Khan as bowlers. Some interesting substitute options, players that also got lots of points, came close. AB de Villiers is there, Surya Kumar Yadav is there, Ishan Kishan, Yuzvendra Chahal. Guys that all got heaps of points, but we've given you our top point getters for IPL 2020. Maybe a parting word from Sanjay and Tom, maybe a takeaway from this season. Sanjay, you first. I mean, you look at the maximum point getters and you think any of them could have been your captain and given you double the points. But what's your one takeaway for fantasy users from this year's IPL?
The conditions have made a difference. So, you've seen spinners excel. You've also seen slow, medium, fast bowlers, slow, medium bowlers excel. You've seen the out and out quickies excel. So also batsmen, but batsmen clearly, it's the guys at the top of the order. They've got it back, but the conditions are so important in sport, and that's allowed all these guys, to excel in their own way.
Yeah, there could very well be another IPL in these conditions if we are to believe what's going around at the moment, Tom. So something for users to keep in mind if they are to keep these conditions in mind in 4 months' time.
Well, I think, again, picking out high-class top-order batsmen is really the theme when it comes to collecting points, and also making sure that you have some of those batsmen that are, manning the stumps, keeping wickets like your de Kocks and your KL Rahuls. The other thing to consider is it's clearly been a fast bowlers tournament. They have excelled. So world-class pace bowlers like your Archers, Rabadas, your Jasprit Bumrahs are a must pick. They're taking wickets, and they'll continue to take wickets if they're playing in the UAE, where they just get that little bit extra bounce, which can create those problems.
All right, brilliant. Top-class batsmen and premier all-rounders, Aussie all-rounders get you lots of points. I'm sure Sanjay Manjrekar and Tom Moody would have got me lots of points if they would have been part of these leagues. But anyway, their insight has been more than valuable. Thank you to Tom and to Sanjay. This wraps up a very special episode of my 11 Circle Fantasy Pick on ESPNcricinfo.